Daf Yomi, Tractate Avodah Zarah, page 56, top of the page, Nun Vav and Aleph. Ve'ein botzrin im Yisrael she'ose pe'roisa b'tuma v'choshchin she'ein darchin aval botzrim im nachim v'gas she'mutz l'grom tuma l'chulin she'eretz Yisrael. And one may not harvest grapes. Again, disclaimer, I'm just reading the Talmud. I don't confirm or deny any, certainly don't confirm any of the ideas here. I'm simply reading it, the Talmud. These are not my ideas, the Talmud's ideas. That being said, let's continue. And one may not harvest grapes together with a Jew who produces wine from his fruit in a state of ritual impurity, as he is thereby causing the produce to be rendered impure. And all the more so may one not tread on the grapes with him, as he is assisting a Jew who is rendering the wine impure by treading on the grapes. But one may harvest grapes into the winepress, together with the Gentile, as is permitted to impart impurity to non-sacred produce that is in Eretz Yisrael. Ve'ein ose yayin nesach ad shir lebor v'tanya yayin mishe yikafeh. The Mishnah teaches, and the Gentile's touch does not render the juice of the grapes into wine used for libation until it descends into the collection vat, because until then it does not have the status of wine. The Gemara asks, but isn't it taught in a Mishnah, Ma'asrot 1:7, with regard to the stage when the work of producing the wine is considered complete, and one is obligated to separate tithes from the wine. With regard to wine, one is obligated to separate tithes from the time that the solid residue floats on the top of the wine. Amarava, loikashia, haravikiva harabanan tanan, yayin mishiyered labor, rikiva omer, mi she yikafe. Rava said it is not difficult. That Mishnah is in accordance to the opinion of Rabbi Akiva, whereas this Mishnah is in accordance with the opinion of the rabbis. This is, as we learned in a Braita with regard to wine, one is obligated to separate tithes from the time that the wine descends into the collection vat. Rabbi Akiva says one is obligated to separate tithes only from the time that the solid residue floats on the top of the wine. A dilemma was raised before the sages. Is Rabbi Akiva referring to the floating on the seed of the seeds on top of the wine in the collection vat, or due to the floating of the yeast on top of the wine in the barrel? Tashima Tanya Yayin Mishikape Afalpi Shekipa Koilet. Ministry of Klita. Koilet minagas. It's absorbed, huh? Ministry of the Klita. Koilet minagas. Aliana minatzinor v'shoise. Shmamina. Kipui debor kabrina shmamina. The Gemara suggests, come in here a resolution of this issue. As it is taught in that Mishnah, with regard to wine, one is obligated to separate tithes from the time that the solid residue floats on top of the wine. Subsequently, even though the residue has floated, one may collect wine from the upper wine press and from the pipe that connects the upper wine press to the vat, and one may drink it without separating tithes. Conclude from the Mishnah that we are speaking about the floating of the seeds on top of the wine in the collection vat. The Gemara affirms, conclude from it that it is so. The Atani Razvid B'devei Raboishia Yayin Yishir Labarvei Kaper B'kiva Omer Mi Sheyeshalech B'chavis Chaviois Tirtze Nami Lahach Chamais Lachi Yayin Mishiyer labor v'kaper v'kiva omer Yeshale v'chavis. The Gemara asks, but didn't Rosvid teach a different version of the aforementioned dispute in a Braita of the school of Rabbi Yehoshua? With regard to wine, one is obligated to separate tithes from the time that the wine descends into the collection vat and the seeds float on top. Rabbi Akiva says one is obligated to separate tithes only from the time that one siphons the wine from the vat into barrels. The Gemara replies that one can resolve the contradiction. Explain the first Braita in this manner as well. With regard to wine, one is obligated to separate tithes from the time that the wine descends into the collection vat and the seeds float on top. Rabbi Akiva says one is obligated to separate tithes only from the time that one siphons the wine from the vat into barrels. Ve'ela masnisin dikatani eno ese yain nesech achir lebor le'matalas etanai lo ishani yain nesech de'achamiran be'erabanan. The Gemara asks, but whose opinion is expressed in the Mishnah that teaches the Gentile does not render the juice of the grapes into wine used for a libation until it descends into the collection vat? Shall we say that the stage when the work of producing the wine is considered complete is subject to a dispute between the three Tanaim? The Gemara replies, no. The prohibition of wine used for a libation is different, as the sages were stringent concerning it, and render the wine forbidden even before the seeds float. By contrast, with regard to tithes, the Tana of this Mishnah holds in accordance with the opinion of either Rabbi Akiva or the rabbis. Now turning to 56b. The Gemara comments, and according to Rava, who explains that the Mishnah with regard to wine used for libations is in accordance with one opinion, whereas the Mishnah with regard to tithes is in accordance with another opinion, and he does not hold that the case of wine used for libation is different. He interprets it as a dispute between three Tanaim. Ma shebabor asur ve'ashar mutar amar Rav Huna lo shanu ela shelo hechzir gargutini legat aval hechzir gargutini legat asur. The Mishnah teaches once the wine descends into the collection vat, that which is in the collection vat is prohibited, and the rest, which did not descend into the collection vat, is permitted. Rav Huna says the Mishnah taught that the rest of the wine is permitted only in a case where he did not return the wicker basket, which is used to strain the wine on the way to the vat, to the wine press. But if he returned the wicker basket to the wine press, even the wine remaining in the wine press is prohibited, as the wine in the basket renders the wine in the wine press forbidden. Gargutini gufa b'maika mitasra b'nitzok shmaminan d'tzorchi bor g'detani rabbichia shepachasatu tzilochito hachanami shepachasatu boro. The Gemara asks, with regard to the wine in the wicker basket itself, in what manner is it rendered forbidden? Apparently, it is rendered forbidden by the stream of liquid that flows from the basket into the vat below, thereby connecting the wine in the basket to the forbidden wine in the vat. If so, conclude from Rav Huna's statement that an uninterrupted stream of liquid is considered a connection. The Gemara rejects the inference. The reason of Rav Huna's statement could be different, as Rabbi Chia teaches that if one fills a Gentile's flask through a funnel the wine in the funnel is rendered forbidden in a case where the level of wine in his flask rose and reached the funnel. Here too, Rav Huna is referring to a case where the level of the wine in his collection vat rose and reached the basket. Ahu Yenoka Titan Avodah Zarah B'Shis Shani Ba'obine Mahu Droch Imanachri Bagad Amar Lahu Dorchin Imanachri Bagad V'hakamanasech B'yedei Titzayrena Lehu Yidei V'hakamanasech V'regel Nisuch Teregel Lo Shemenizuch. The Gemara relates there was a certain outstanding child who learned the tractate of Avodah Zarah when he was 6 years old. People raised a dilemma to him. What is the halacha? Is it permitted to tread on grapes in the winepress together with the Gentile? The child said to them, one may tread on grapes in the winepress together with the Gentile in accordance with the ruling of the Mishnah. They asked the child, but doesn't the Gentile render the wine a libation touching it with his hands, rendering it forbidden? If so, how may a Jew derive benefit from the wine by receiving payment for his work? The child replied, it is permitted in a case where we tie his hands so that he cannot pour the wine as a libation. The child was then asked, but doesn't the Gentile render the wine a libation by touching it with his foot? The child replied, rendering wine a libation by touching it with one's foot is not considered rendering it a libation. Avodah The Gemara relates there was a certain incident in Nardah in which a Jew and a Gentile trod on grapes and produced a certain wine together, and Shmuel delayed ruling on the matter for 3 festivals. As the sages gathered during the festivals and presented Shmuel with the opportunity to clarify the matter with them, Gemara asks, what is the reason that Shmuel delayed his ruling? If we should say that Shmuel delayed ruling on the matter because he thought to himself,